So Longlegs is finally here, and it's directed by Oz Perkins, the son of Anthony Perkins, who was the actor who played Norman Bates in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. And I think this movie is going to make a butt ton of money. I mean, were your guys' like screenings sold out? I was supposed to go see this Thursday night, and to my surprise, it was like 90% full. I was like, what the fuck is going, like Longlegs? This is the movie that's being sold out? And so then I went to go book Fridays, and it was like 70% full. I was like, what is going on here? Like, I've seen almost every summer blockbuster this season, and like none of them have been this packed. None of them. I think this movie is going to make a shit ton of money, and I think it's well deserved. And I think this movie is going to be like Neon's big smash hit. You know, I think this movie is going to be like their Hereditary. And I'm not saying this movie is as good as Hereditary. I'm just saying that like Hereditary brought A24, you know, on the map in a big way. And I feel like this movie is going to do that for Neon. And, you know, I applaud them because I loved this movie. So Longlegs is about Lee Harker, a FBI agent who may or may not have psychic abilities, who is tasked with hunting down the Longlegs killer, played by Nicolas Cage, who convinces families to kill themselves, maybe, and he leaves a calling card, leaves like coded messages, and it's her job to decode the messages and hunt this guy down and bring him to justice. And that's kind of the core story here, but it gets a little more complicated than that, and a little weird and wilder and creepy. I don't know if I would consider this movie to be like scary. I would say this movie is kind of like just creepy, very atmospheric. You know, this movie's being compared to, you know, Seven or Silence of the Lambs. And is this movie as good as those? I mean, my knee-jerk reaction is no, but at the same time, like, we've had decades to marinate on Seven and Silence of the Lambs. Like, this movie just came out, so, you know, over time, maybe that opinion may change. Maybe this will be better than those movies. I don't know. You know, only time will tell. So, yeah, I don't know. For me, the jury's still out of whether or not, you know, this movie is as good as those, but, you know, if you want my answer, my knee-jerk reaction is like, no, this movie is not as good as either of those movies. But that doesn't take anything away from Longlegs. Longlegs is kind of its own thing, and it's very effective, very creepy. It does have its problems, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but overall, as a complete package, it was a movie that grabbed my attention from the beginning. I think this movie has like one of the best openings I've seen this year, and I knew I was in good hands when I saw, you know, this is a movie that opens with a quote, or I guess lyrics in this case, and I was like, hey, I know that song, I understand that reference. But yeah, just from the opening credits, like the opening scene to the opening credits, like I knew I was in good hands. I was like, okay, here we go. I'm buckled up. You got my attention. Let's roll. And you know, one of my small complaints is I think Lee Harker as a character, she was a little too stoic for me. I think there's this line, like I don't mind, you know, stoic, serious characters with a haunted past that are very quiet and distant from other people. You know, I don't mind characters like that, but I think there's a line. Like you can either go too far or you can, you know, be in that middle ground area, and I feel like this movie kind of took it too far. She's a little too stoic and a little too distant, almost kind of like robotic. Like there's a scene she has with a little girl, and she's sitting in this little girl's room, and they're having a conversation, and the movie treats like Lee Harker as like a robot in that scene in a way, or like an alien. I don't know. It was just like it cuts to like the child's room, and she's like looking around. It's almost like she's never seen a child's room before, and I don't know. She was just a little too stoic for my taste. And then there's Nicolas Cage, man. I mean, I'm assuming Nicolas Cage is kind of the reason why people are showing up, and I think a lot of people, at least I felt like my audience that I was with, my almost sold out audience, was wanting the fucking unhinged Nicolas Cage performance, and I don't think that's what we're given here. And you know, a lot of my audience members were like laughing and cackling at his performance, and I felt like I was having a different experience than they were. Like I actually found that character to be creepy and not like, you know, Nicolas Cagey, if that makes sense. I will say that his prosthetics on his face was a little distracting, although I'm actually kind of glad they did something with his face to make him look a little different, because if it was just Nick Cage, it probably would have taken me out of the movie a little bit more. But I did feel like it did feel a little weird with all the stuff on him. His performance is great. I thought it was wonderful. It's over the top when it needs to be, and then it's subdued when it needs to be. Like he's a pretty memorable villain. Like I would say, like there's a scene where he's being interrogated, and that whole scene, you're just like, gripping your seat. You're like, this guy is a wild, weird, deranged lunatic, and it was absolutely captivating. I think Nicolas Cage deserves all the praise here. He basically steals the show. Yeah, he was mesmerizing. He's a revelation. Fucking Nick Cage, man. Nick Cage. One of the things I dug the most about the movie is that, like, yeah, it's another movie about an FBI agent trying to hunt down a killer. We've seen, dozens and dozens of those movies. What got my attention really quickly early on is that they actually kind of inject some supernatural undertones to the movie, where it actually makes the movie a little more unsettling. Like the lead FBI agent guy, he's kind of like, hey, looking at the evidence, there's no evidence to suggest that Longlegs is actually killing these people, or not even killing these people, but not even in the house. And so it's like you as an audience member are trying to take in that information. You're like, wait, what? There's also this kind of psychic thing going on. Like there's this kind of like undertone of the supernatural and a little bit of like devil worshipy stuff in the beginning of the movie, or at least they plant that seed. And I just find that to be kind of like an unsettling watch. Like it's not just a killer. There's like other forces at play. You want to know what those forces are and how they contribute to how Longlegs does his thing. And I thought that was a genius move. And then it crescendos with a very interesting climax. I think that they really swung for the fences in that climax. I don't know if this is quite, I don't know if this is a climax that's going to split audiences. It might, like I said, this movie does kind of swing for the fences at the end. It goes all in on, some devil worshipping stuff. I dug it. I ate it all up. I was like, oh my gosh, this is cool. This is really cool. It's interesting. Like, but I can also see some audience members, being like, what? And like scratching the head. Like, that's what this is? Like, that's kind of dumb. But I dug it. I dug the hell out of it. And I really dug the reveal and the climax of the movie. I thought all the pieces lined up, although there is like an exposition dump towards the end, and I felt like some of the information in the exposition dump was already kind of explained more or less. I guess what I'm talking about, mild spoilers here, but there's some information given to us early on about dolls, and then it comes back later on in the exposition dump about the dolls and the importance of the dolls and what they do. And I was like, oh, didn't we kind of already establish that early on? Or at least like we had enough pieces as an audience member to kind of put that together. So that was kind of weird. But the climax itself, I thought was pretty damn gripping, and I was just like, oh no, this is taking a dark turn. And the only problem I have with that climax scene, how do I say this without spoilers? Agent Harker has an opportunity to stop the climax before it happens, I guess, or as it's happening. She's in a situation where she knows that things are going to get bad very quickly, and she has the opportunity to maybe try and prevent that, but she doesn't. She just kind of sits there and lets it all happen. I was like, wait, why don't you just, take action and do the thing you need to do? But I guess the argument against that, the more I'm processing it, is that eventually she does try to stop what's happening, obviously after everything kind of already went down. But the last shot of the movie is her trying to stop what's happening, but the forces that be are preventing her from doing that. So I guess the argument could be like, even if she did try to stop it early on, she wouldn't be able to. But again, she could have at least tried in the beginning of that scene. She could have at least been like, oh hey, shit's about to go down, let me try and stop it. But instead she just kind of watches and lets the whole climax kind of happen. So that was a little weird to me. The whole time I'm like, do the thing, take action, do the thing. But overall, that being said, that's nitpicky stuff. I think the climax is very gripping and disturbing and sad. And I love the last shot of the movie. I love the cut to black to T-Rex. Yeah, good stuff. Overall, I mean, it's kind of ironic that I just posted my top 10 movies of the year and like a couple days ago, and this movie would have been on that list, so that kind of sucks that I should have waited to do that list till after I saw Longlegs. But yeah, this is one of my favorite movies of the year. It's creepy, it's atmospheric, great performance by Nick Cage. Yeah, Oz Perkins does it again. His first movie, The Blackcoat's Daughter, I believe it was called, was also very good. I think this movie is better than that. Yeah, highly recommend this one if you're a fan of horror or creepiness or atmospheric slow burn horror stuff. This is a must watch. This is a lot of fun. If you've seen the movie, let me know what you thought of the movie. Did you hate it? Did you like it? What are the aspects you liked? What didn't you like? Until the next time, hail Satan.